Hey, welcome to Life After Nursing School. I'm your host, Caroline Dana, aka Nurse Coach Caroline, and I'm here to help you, the new nurse, thrive in your career. As a former nurse recruiter, nurse manager, and now your personal new nurse career coach, I'm obsessed with making sure you don't just survive your first couple of years at the bedside. I want you to absolutely rock them. From the challenges to the triumphs, I'll be right here with you, giving you the real-world advice and support that you need to shine. Whether you're in nursing school getting ready for life after, or you're already out there in nurse life feeling overwhelmed or even questioning your confidence, I've got your back. I'll be sharing tips, tricks, resources, and strategies that are just for you. We'll dive into everything from landing that dream nursing job to slaying imposter syndrome, and most importantly, how to keep that spark alive and stay the vibrant and amazing nurse that you are. So if you're ready to tackle the things nursing school did not cover, like how to build a career, trust yourself, and keep your passion strong, then get comfortable because we are about to dive in and make nurse life the best life. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to introduce our guest because this conversation is such a powerful blend of strategy and real life. I'm joined by Matt Berndt, head of Indeed's Job Search Academy and a nationally recognized authority in job search strategy and career management. Matt has spent nearly 3 decades helping people navigate the world of work in a way that's both practical and empowering. He's held leadership roles across workforce technology, staffing, and higher education, including university career services at places like UT Austin, USC, and St. Edward's University, and he's widely respected in the career coaching space. What makes this conversation especially meaningful for this audience is that Matt also has a personal connection to nursing. His daughter is an oncology nurse, so while he isn't a clinician himself, he deeply understands the realities, pressures, and career decisions nurses face both professionally and personally. In this episode, Matt and I geek out on the stuff most people avoid: resumes, interviews, career transitions, and the realities of modern job search. We talk about how the concept of a resume is changing in a digital world, what actually matters in those first few seconds when someone reviews your application, and the mindset shift that can completely change how you think about job hopping. And towards the end, Matt shares 2 things I think every nurse needs to hear: how to think about career seasons without guilt, and a framework to understand the different kinds of jobs we take across a lifetime and why each one can still be purposeful. Let's get into it. I want to give a very warm welcome to Matt Berndt, the head of the Job Search Academy at Indeed. Welcome to Life After Nursing School podcast.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, Caroline.
Yeah, you're actually my first non-medical guest on the show, and also the very first person that I've pitched the show to in person, which makes it very special for me.
Well, I feel honored. I have to say, I do have a little bit of a medical connection in that my daughter is an oncology nurse. And so we have followed her career as a nurse from the time that she was in school through the time that she was getting her early practical training, got her RN, began her career, travel nursed, and now settled into her career in oncology. So there's a special place in my heart for nurses because I have one in the family.
You know what, Matt? I knew I liked you. So just to set the scene for everybody, I actually first crossed paths with Matt a few months ago when I attended Indeed's Careers in Care Off the Clock event for healthcare workers in New York City. And Matt, you were a panelist during one of the group discussions. And as he shared his insights on career navigation, I found myself nodding along to everything he was saying. And as a career coach myself, I was so aligned with your perspective that I knew that I had to bring you on the show. So after the panel discussion, I cornered you and then said, please be on my podcast. So again, so happy that you're here today. And Matt, I think we're actually a lot alike in many ways. Of course, now I know that you have a soft spot for nurses, which I obviously do as well. But we both love to help people navigate their careers. And it's work that I have genuinely come to absolutely love. You probably don't know this about me, but I was actually asked to step into a hospital recruiter role because I naturally could connect with candidates at job fairs. And I was really hesitant to take the position because I had just received my master's in nursing management and leadership, and this is not a normal career progression for a nurse to become a hospital recruiter. So I reluctantly said yes, and I'm so glad I did because it led me onto this path of just obsessing over people's careers and helping them, get that job that they really want. And it's been like a full circle moment now coming here going, oh, I'm glad I actually said yes to that hospital recruiter job. So
It's fun when that light bulb goes on over your head. That happened for me a little over 30 years ago when I was applying all of these practices of career planning and career exploration and job search and wondering where I was going to go next when I was working in university work and maybe looking at a career in business. And as career services was evolving at universities, it was turning into what I was actually doing. And I looked at the job description for a job and said, I can actually get paid to do for other people what I've been doing for myself. And that was when I began my career in helping people get jobs.
I love that. I definitely want to give thanks to the nurse leader that said to me, "Hey, you're really good at this. Would you be our hospital recruiter?" Because I didn't see the skill in myself and I never even saw that as a possibility. So to have these, like you said, kind of light bulb moments and opportunities fall into our lap, it's something you shouldn't just ignore. It's definitely something you should, investigate and see if that is an option for you.
Yeah, in your case too, something very, very important happened. You had someone who I would perhaps call a mentor,
Mhm.
someone who was in a role above you, watching what you were doing, seeing your skills, and pointing out opportunities and suggesting them to you when you weren't thinking about it yourself. So I think it's really important for people to seek out mentors and then respond to mentors who pursue you and are offering you opportunities. Really
Yeah, and
important.
trust them,
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right because this person that noticed this in me was someone that I was shadowing for a capstone experience to kind of further my degree. So I was working really closely with her. So again, she had that transformational leadership where she saw something in me that I didn't really see and was able to kind of, give me this unique opportunity that now has completely changed the trajectory of my career.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I'm hearing in your story parallels to my daughter's story as well, because she's had a
Really?
similar experience coming out of her master's in nursing with a leadership focus as well. She chose oncology because that's where she found the best mentors and the best work environment, where she started to prioritize both the work that she was doing and the work culture that she was a part of. Really important.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more on that. Well, maybe I'll have to have her on the show next.
She'd love it. I kid you not, she would love it. That's a lot of Bernts, though, if you have me and you have her.
I know. I'll space you
Um,
guys out.
okay, very good. I'll let her know.
All right. So I want to first talk about resumes.
Mhm.
I've always stood by the advice that a resume should be as long as it needs to be, right? The length should be long enough to clearly and concisely communicate a candidate's background and experience, but nothing longer. We don't need the added fluff. However, I still get asked all the time, well, shouldn't my resume only be one page? What is your take on that?
So it's an interesting question to ask these days when so much is happening digitally. Like I work for Indeed, and when you put your profile on Indeed, it essentially can be infinite in length because you can keep adding skills and adding experiences and stuff like that. So the notion of what is a resume is changing. In my mind, that resume, whether it's on paper or if it's a Word doc or whatever it is a point in time artifact of what you present to employers at that time. And it ought to be tightly packaged for the kind of job that you want. Okay. Whereas your profile can be more comprehensive because it's not just meant to present your qualifications to a specific employer. It's meant, in our case, to help algorithms understand who you are and what you offer so that we can present the right job opportunities and matches to you and employers can find you on Indeed. So this notion of how long should it be? I kind of like your philosophical response, as long as it needs to be, but no longer. So
Absolutely.
just because you've done something doesn't mean it has to go on your resume. You can be really proud of it still, but if it's not relevant to your job search, it shouldn't be on your resume, it shouldn't be in your profile. And quite honestly, if it's older than 10 years, I'd consider leaving it off unless it's really, really important because it doesn't have to be there. Again, a resume is not an application for employment where they're asking for a comprehensive employment history. It's a marketing document. And the purpose of your resume or the purpose of your profile is to convince people to want to know more about you. And that is invite you in for an interview or a conversation on the phone or something of that sort. So I think you're spot on. As much as needs to be there, but no more. And by all means, it's got to be relevant.
Yeah. Okay. There's definitely a couple things I want to touch upon that you
Okay.
just said. So you obviously want to convince, the job you're applying for to hire you or at least bring you in for an interview.
Yep.
What is your stance on an objective statement at the kind of the top of your resume?
Personally, I think they're useless.
You
I mean,
do.
your objective is you're applying for a job. It's kind of clear what your objective is. And
Absolutely.
and I would say wasting space on your resume to say my objective is a registered nursing position or a director of nursing position with a community health. You're applying to that position. What a waste of space. Now, a summary statement or a profile statement of some kind, I think is invaluable. Heck, you see them on LinkedIn profiles, you see them on Indeed profiles. The very top of your resume should provide a quick summary of what it is that you offer to convince the reader to read on. Because we've done studies on this, and they say before someone makes an initial decision, am I going to read on or am I going to move on? You've got between 6 and 10 seconds. Give them something at the very top of the page about you. Because remember, an objective is not about you. An objective is about the job itself, and your resume should be all about you. So give them something above the fold at the very beginning, and I think a summary statement does that really well.
Okay. And you would call it summary statement.
Summary statement or a profile. Some folks will call it a career profile, a
Okay.
summary. Some folks don't even label it at all. I tell you what I really like on resumes when you're looking at the paper document, so it closely parallels again what's in your profile, having your name and perhaps a title of some kind that indicates the kind of work that you want to do or that brands you as something. So I'll use my daughter, and I won't get this right, but it's like you've got her name, and then immediately to the right of it, registered oncology nurse with X certifications. You are branded at the very top for what you are and what it is that you want to do. You have that, then you just have a summary statement. It's kind
Yeah.
of like the headline on your Indeed profile or on your LinkedIn profile. Have a headline and
Yeah.
then have a profile statement of some kind.
Okay. Now, kind of going off a little bit more of what you initially said about making sure what's on there is relevant. I have had many situations where new grad nurses will start their first job and they'll get a few months in and they will either realize this is too stressful, this is not for me, I can't hang at this job, I'm going to quit, or they're let go for whatever the reason may
Right.
be. And they only have a few months of experience, which really puts them in this terrible limbo because the jobs that are out there for nursing students or new grad nurses are with zero experience. And then the other jobs, everything else is at least 1 year of nursing experience. So oftentimes they say to me, should I put this 3 or 4 months of experience on my resume or should I leave it off? And it's a very tough call because as the hiring team, they might look at that and say, well, we're potentially going to hire you for a similar environment. And on paper, it looks like you can't hang in this environment. But at the same time, they pull them in for an interview and kind of discover that they've had some experience in being employed, but it hasn't been reflected on the resume. And I think it can cause a little bit of, lack of trust. So do you have an insight here? I know it's a
So,
really
I mean,
touchy.
my initial gut would say it's experience, put it on your resume, and not every experience that you have is going to be a positive experience. And it's a question of how do you respond to
Yeah.
that experience. So, you said something interesting is like they left or they were let go and because they couldn't handle that environment. And then you said they applied for a job in a similar type of environment. My first question is, why are you doing that? You have the opportunity, I think most nurses have the opportunity while you're in school to explore, I might even be required to explore different types of nursing in different environments. Not everyone's going to thrive as a surgical nurse, and I'm going to get the language wrong because
Yeah.
not
It's
everyone's
okay.
going to thrive in an emergency room. Not everyone's going to thrive in a NICU unit, and some people are going to do really, really well in a doctor's office. You have to assess the world of work. Nursing positions aren't all the same. Nursing environments aren't all the same. I'll go back to my daughter. Not everyone's cut out for oncology work. That's in its own way hard, in a way that is emergency room nursing is hard differently. So, where do you thrive? And this happens to people when they're coming out of school. I think this
Yeah.
would be great. Nursing, teaching, whatever it happens to be. Try being a middle school teacher. It's very different from elementary or high school teaching. But you go out and you find an environment that just wasn't a fit for you. Number one, don't apply to get back into those kinds of environments if you believe it's the same kind of environment, and then say, what kind of environments do I want to work in? Because now all of this turns into, how am I going to talk about this in an interview when they ask me questions? So whatever it happens to be, anything that's on your resume, you better be ready to talk about it. And that could be a great story. It's like, you know what? I love nursing. But I also discovered that that kind of high pressure, high intensity emergency room work is not who I am, and it's not where I thrive. I thrive in environments that are X, Y, and Z. And that's why I'm applying to this job, because it's my understanding from the research that I've done that this is the kind of environment, and this is where a nurse with my skills and interests and compassion and all those things can thrive. And that's why I'm applying. Now that's not a bad story anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think putting the experience down on paper initially, because I'm a big believer in just the truth will come out. The fact that
Yeah, it
that
will.
employment experience, that will come to fruition. So you might as well put it down, but then having a story to back why now you're pivoting, right? And why are you now seeking maybe this other hospital, this other unit or different, specialty, and having that kind of backup story or answer to that question.
You've got to be ready to tell your story.
You do.
Employers do not inherently get you. And I could say that to everyone. It's your job. You look, as an employee, it's your job to make you understandable to the environment where you're working, both what you're capable of, what you want to do, where you want to go, how you can contribute. Then when you're looking for work, it's up to you to make potential employers understand you, what you want out of the work, what you offer. I say a lot, there's 4 questions you have to be able to answer in an interview. Why you want the job, why you believe you're a good candidate for the job, why you want to work for that organization or in that department, wherever it happens to be, and why you want to work in that field or in that industry. They need to hear that in your words so that they can
Yeah.
get an understanding of what you're looking for out of the job as well. Super important stuff.
Yeah, I actually just created an interview course for new grads, and those questions are in there because you're absolutely right. You also need to sell yourself and convince them that you know why you're interviewing for this position and you have a story and a backing as to why you're there and why this position maybe is more unique to you and means, something to you versus any other new grad job out there.
Yeah. And those questions that you hope they won't ask,
They
but you
will.
think they might, they will. They will. So you prepare your answers.
Absolutely. A
Be
lot of it
prepared
is,
to have those conversations
yes.
and to tell your story and make you understandable. And guess what? Almost everyone has been through some kind of career transition that they did not select. Whether you were laid off, whether you were terminated, whether you just found yourself in a dysfunctional work environment and had to get out yourself. Everyone has experienced ups and downs. And when you think about the years in COVID, everybody in the world had to learn how to pivot. So there's an understanding, I believe, generally amongst people that not everyone has a straight linear career path that's, puppy dogs and candy canes.
I agree. And I think if you can authentically share your experience, even if it was a struggle or a learning experience or what maybe you think on paper might look like a failure, but you can turn it into something that you learned, people
Yep.
can connect with that. And the hiring team will connect with you. And if you can connect together, you increase your likability and, connection with them. And when you walk out the door, they can say, okay, I see myself in that person, or I
Yeah,
understand what they went through.
exactly.
Yeah. Now, I love that we're talking about interviewing. What are some interview mistakes that you see candidates make that maybe doesn't get talked about enough?
Well, the biggest one I kind of mentioned a little bit is just not preparing. It's like, well, I know me. I've been around and awake for almost everything I've ever done. Who's a better authority on me than me? And when you take that approach, you tend to ramble
Yes.
and just go on and on about things that really don't matter because you're nervous and you've got a dialogue going on in your head. At the
Yes.
same time, there's words coming out of your mouth and you're fighting with yourself to say, how can I get myself to shut up so my mind can catch up with what's coming out of my mouth? And that's just lack of preparation. So when I think about preparation, I think about that preparation to prepare answers to the questions that you expect
Hmm.
and you hope that they will ask, to prepare responses to questions that you probably can expect and you hope they won't ask. Be prepared to have a conversation about money when it comes along, because it is going to come along, and then have your questions ready to ask also. You're interviewing them at the same time they're interviewing you. So that means do your research. We do a whole workshop on this in the Job Search Academy as well that people can dig
Yeah.
into. But it's ultimately do your research on the role, on the company, on yourself. And by the way, if you've written your resume well, everything on your resume begins a story that you can tell. And if you're really writing good accomplishment statements, I'm going to jump into nursing here for a second because I
Sure.
asked my daughter about this and she said, a really core skill of any nurses is to be able to write a good S bar because
Hmm.
you want a doctor to be say excellent S bar proceed. When you
Yep.
think about writing on your resume, it's the same components of an S bar are going to be in what I call a star statement on your resume.
Hmm.
Your resume should not include lines from a job description, but examples of what you have
Hmm.
done, listed as a situation, task, action, result. That's the beginning of a longer story that you get to tell that you can elaborate on in your interview. So think about that bad work experience that you said, do we put that on the resume? It's on there. It's a story that you can tell. It illustrates something about you and something about what you want as a candidate. So use your resume as the basis of your research on you so that you can prepare the story that you want to tell, and then do the research on the company so that you can prepare the questions that you want to ask so that you can walk out knowing whether or not you would accept that job if they were to offer it to you.
Absolutely. I think there's nothing worse than being part of a hiring team, interviewing someone, and at the end of the interview saying, "Do you have any questions for us?" And they say, no. It just looks like the person that you're interviewing is not actually taking this serious. They're not actually invested or excited about this position or even seeing a future with this organization. And yes, that's an assumption, but we don't want the hiring team to assume that.
So I have a strategy for that.
Okay.
It's possible if you've had a great interview and a really, really thorough interview, and you looked in your portfolio and all of the questions that you wanted to ask have already been answered and you're pretty much done. And then you get that question and your mind goes blank, kind of, because you've been through it all and you don't have
Yeah.
anything else. It's okay to open your portfolio and look at that list of questions and say something like this. Quite honestly, I came
Yes.
into this interview wanting to learn more about the team, more about the organization, the compensation package, and what my life might be like for the first 3 or 4 months here. And you've really been thorough in answering those questions. So at the present time, I don't have any additional questions because you answered those for me. But if I do have any, may I follow up with you?
I love that. I teach the exact same thing.
You've just told them what's priority for you in assessing this role as a candidate and giving them an opportunity to lean into those things if they have additional stuff as they try to recruit you more.
Absolutely. And having questions written out or typed out with you is more evidence that yes, you came prepared with questions,
Yeah,
but maybe naturally they have been answered throughout the interview
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
So, yeah, I love that. Now, talking a little bit more about questions to ask the
Mhm.
hiring team, how can we determine if an employer is right for us in an interview? Are there questions you recommend the candidate to ask the hiring team that gives them either green flags or red flags?
It's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
So you've got to determine for yourself. I'll shill a little bit for Indeed here in a good way. We work with some sociologists to conduct, and it's ongoing, a workforce well-being survey or a work well-being survey that people who create their accounts, we say, hey, you want to tell us about your job, can rate where they work and rate them on things like happiness, satisfaction at work, sense of purpose, and stress level at work. So let's just look at those 4 things. What are you looking for out of a work environment? That should determine the kind of questions that you ask about that company, about that organization, about that hospital to determine whether or not it has that kind of a culture. I think a great question is to ask everyone you interview with, tell me what you like most about working here. What do you find most challenging about working here? And seeing those different kinds of answers. So your answer to identifying whether a work environment is right to you will be defined by the questions you ask to learn about that work environment. But along with that, I personally am a firm believer that the way an organization recruits and the way it interviews and the way a manager interviews is indicative of the way that person or that organization conducts business on a day in, day out basis. So if you're getting that warm, fuzzy feeling that you're getting a chance to work with people who share your values or your approach to work and your approach to nursing, that should make you feel good about the process. And if you're getting the heebie-jeebies, that's a technical term, about just the whole process and the way you're treating you, I would be concerned about whether or not that's a place that you want to go to work because you're going to spend many hours with these people. And if they're giving you the heebie jeebies during the interview, imagine what that's going to be like in hour 10 of a shift.
Absolutely. And I've had a lot of clients that I've worked with, that new grads that have gone for their interview, and they're like, I don't like the way that the interview was conducted. No one seemed engaged or interested in me, and then they've just decided I'm really not interested in that position
Yeah,
just because of that one interaction. And that's just a little glimpse of what life is like there.
it is. There are some really stressful hospital environments.
Hmm.
Some people see that and go, all right, let's go. Stressful
Yeah,
environments are not necessarily bad. They're only bad if you don't perform well in them. That's energizing for some people. So just
absolutely.
know who you are and what you're looking for, and then apply that template as you evaluate opportunities.
Absolutely. Okay, so transitioning now to career transitions.
Okay.
As the head of the Job Search Academy at
Mhm.
Indeed, and from what I've actually learned about you, I've listened to another podcast where you were interviewed. You shared something really interesting. Okay. You shared that the average person holds about 12.6 jobs between the common working ages of 16 and 54, which really means that people experience a lot of career transitions. So, what guidance would you offer someone who's trying to move into a new role but has a history of job hopping or who simply hasn't yet found the right fit?
Okay. First, I'm going to encourage them to take that concept of job hopping and throw it into the dumpster because people move. The statistic that you quoted comes from the US Department of Labor. And we actually did one of our own surveys because they say the average age from, I think it's 16 or 18 to 54. I'm
Yeah.
older than 54 right now, and I'm still going. So I'm ready to break those curves. So, number one, it's 18 to 54, I think it's 12.6 or 12.4 jobs.
Yep.
People tend to have a lot more career transition earlier in their career and then it slows down. So we did a survey that showed the same thing that individuals typically have in that 9 to 15. People can have as many as 20 and they work in two or three wholly different career areas during the course of your work life. I'll go to an example of a travel nurse. A travel nurse is not job hopping, but they're
Mm-mm.
gaining magical experience in seeing the country or the world in 3 month increments, working in different types of environments. That's not job hopping, that's doing contract work. You
Mhm.
know, if you take a job with a hospital or a clinic and you're there for 3 or 4 months, was that a short term assignment and you decide to go on to something else? It could be. It's how you tell your story. Now, if you are legitimately someone who shows up for 3 weeks and says, I don't like this, and then goes somewhere else and shows up for 3 weeks and I don't like this, and then does that, you are a job hopper and you've got some explaining to do with regard to that.
Yeah.
But shorter stints are not necessarily something that someone should be worried about. You just want to be ready to tell your story. One of the things I'm saying these days around this topic is I think everyone should be ready to seize on opportunity when it presents itself and respond to adversity when it rears its ugly head. Nothing is more frustrating than being at a conference or online and seeing the perfect job that you've always wanted presented to you. And you're like, great, I'd love to apply for that. And you go home and you haven't looked at your resume or your online profiles in months, if not years. And now it's like, oh gosh, I better update this thing before I go. But oh no, I have a shift to go to. Oh, and then I got to pick up my kids. And then 2 weeks go by and you've missed that opportunity because you weren't ready. When the opportunity comes along, is the wrong time to be working on your resume or your profiles. You just get laid off. You're under the stress of just having been laid off. Is that the right time to start working on your resume? Absolutely not. So, to manage all of those career transitions, I think everyone should have an up to date online profile and resume at all times. And to me, that says about every 3 months or about every 6 months, you go in and you update it with your most current skills, and accomplishments so that you're always ready to present the most relevant version of you. That's not just important when it comes to making job transitions externally, it's important internally to get that opportunity to go from a nurse to a nurse supervisor, or to move into a teaching or a training role, or maybe to get that clinical teaching role at the nearby hospital because you also enjoy some teaching, to prepare yourself to move up into a nursing leadership role or a hospital administration role. Even within the same organization, you've got to be ready to tell your story. Earlier in your career, that's going to happen probably more frequently than it does later, but you always got to be ready to manage those career transitions. And it's on you to do that. Nobody else is going to do that for you. And no one else should, frankly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm really passionate about nurses seeing that they're in the driver's seat of their career. And you're right. If the perfect opportunity comes along and you have not kept up with your documents, your resume, that's a lot you have to do. And you're probably just slapping it together as quickly as possible because you want to apply before the posting, before they fill the position or the posting's taken down, which is probably not your best work. And I think this happens a lot with new grad nurses too, is that they are in nursing school when the jobs pop up that they're supposed to be applying for. And all of a sudden they're like, wait, what? I haven't even graduated yet. And now I'm supposed to put together a resume and I don't know how long this posting is going to be up for. And they just put whatever on paper. And I know this because that was my experience as a new reality slapped me across the face. And I was like, oh, geez, how do I even put this thing together? And it wasn't my best work.
I worked in university career services for 20 years. And it's my belief that most universities, most nursing schools, do not provide adequate career services or career resume preparation assistance to their students. There's this notion that, oh, you're nurses, you're in demand. There are jobs available because there were jobs available when I was coming out of nursing school. And that's not a best practice, put it that way. And so we are left to get the skill and gain this experience for ourselves, which is one of the reasons why I ultimately got Indeed to create the Job Search Academy, so that people can have access to all of that skills and training, regardless of where they are in their educational career or their professional career.
You are absolutely right. I'm a nursing instructor as well. And the nursing programs are very focused on getting students the knowledge to pass the NCLEX. That's part of their accreditation. They are motivated to do that. They are not motivated to help the nursing students get jobs. It's not that they don't want them to get jobs. They just don't have to help them. They don't have any skin in the game like they do with the NCLEX pass rates. So I know when I was a new grad, I went to the Career Center and they had very basic resume tips, but it wasn't specific to nursing. It was very different. It was like very business oriented and just very vague. So you're right. I was left to Google. I was left to asking my mom, who's a retired nurse, who gave me old advice, then my husband, who gave me advice, and then it was a family fight. It was a whole thing. So that's where I feel like I've kind of interjected myself, is that we have this need and there's a lack of resources specific for new grads.
And you make a really, really important point, is that while there are a lot of tools and there are a lot of people who will tell you there is a specific way to present yourself because it worked for them or it works for people in their industry. And if you're in software, it's different than if you're in accounting, and it's different if you're in nursing, it's different if you're in creative advertising, it's different if you're in film and entertainment or finance or whatever. You've got to understand the language of the world that you're going into and the way they communicate and what they look for. And that requires research. And, this isn't a knock on nursing schools. It's a knock on universities in general. They do not take career services and career outcomes for their students seriously enough outside of business and engineering programs. They're on it. They process engineer it and optimize it because it's easy there. It's tougher in other areas, and I wish more universities would provide sufficient student support services. That's not a faculty thing. It's a student support services thing.
It is true, because I know some nursing programs will have a 1-credit class on building a resume, but they have a faculty member teaching it who has never hired nurses ever. So I'm kind of like, where are you getting this information? That's actually not right, or that's old news or outdated practices. So it's really tough, and I could not agree with you more. There's just not enough of those resources at the college level.
Yeah, I'll give props to this university where I was working. I was not working in the nursing school, but the nursing school reached out, and once a semester, I would go over and spend a half a day doing workshops. This was with their LPN candidates. It was for a very specific program. over there as well. So they leaned into it a bit, but yeah, schools need to do more. Great
Yeah.
question, by the way. If you're considering nursing school, when you're looking at admissions, asking them about their career assistance upon graduation and approaching graduation, what they do to help you get a job. Great question, because it might help you make a decision as to where you choose to go.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to do one more thing with you. Well, a few
Cool.
more, but this
We
is
got
this.
time.
Yes, we do. We do. So I want to talk about something that you shared again at that panel discussion at the Indeed event. And you shared this concept where we actually hold four different types of jobs throughout our career lifespan, and it doesn't matter the industry. And when you shared this concept, I was so floored. I've shared it on social media since, but it was just so enlightening to me that I would love for you to share it here, if you don't mind.
I saw that, by the way, on
Oh,
social
you
media.
did.
Thank you very much. It's honestly, it's kind of born from my 30 years of doing this and coming to the conclusion that there really are only four different kinds of work. And they're all very legitimate and they all have meaning if you appoint meaning to them. And if work has meaning, work has purpose. So I'll start with the first one. I call it a career job or a dream job. It's the kind of job that every parent tells their child, this is what you're supposed to aspire to. Do what you love and you'll never work another day in your life because you love what you do and it's wonderful. And we're all told we should aspire to this dream job. And some folks recognize early on that my dream is to be a teacher or an engineer and a nurse, and they have a very linear path toward that, and it makes sense. And that's the gold standard to which we are all supposed to aspire. Not. It is one kind of work, but it is not the only kind of work. Sometimes what you really want to do, that dream, is not as easy and linear to get as just going to school, pursuing the degree, and then starting the career, like you might do as an accountant or a teacher, or maybe even a nurse. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur or start your own business, or God help you, work in film and entertainment or something of that sort. These are fields that may not pay or certainly don't pay much when you're trying to break into them. There's high barriers of entry into some fields, and you still have bills to pay. You might need that second kind of job, which is called a bridge job. A bridge job is paying your bills. You're giving your all to it. Well, maybe not your 100% all because you want to save some energy so you can work toward your dream on the side, but you're doing a good job. You are earning the money and delivering it, but you're kind of turning it on when you get there. You're turning it off when you leave so that you can invest your other energy. It's a job that is creating a bridge from where you are to where you want to go in your dream job. So that to me is the second kind of work that there is. The third kind of work is what I call comp and benefits work. For some people, work is work, a job is a job. It's never going to be anything more than that. And that's okay. You're there. You show up when the lights turn on or when you need to punch in or when you begin. You're there until the end of the day and you do a good job when you're there. You're a good colleague, but that's all you're looking for out of work. You're looking for a paycheck, comp, and benefits because you're really investing your energy in something else. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's a cause. Maybe it's a side business that you just like to do. You're not using this one as a bridge. You just got a nice side hustle that you enjoy more than work. That's a comp and benefits job. It's perfectly okay if that's what you want to do for your entire life. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And then the fourth kind of work is what I call work of necessity. You just got laid off. You're under other kind of adverse circumstances, and you got to keep the lights on. You got to keep gas in the tank, and you got to put some food in the fridge for you and your family. This is not something that you want to do necessarily or that you want to do long term, but it's something that you need to do. It's a job of necessity. And by the way, not everyone will have them in any particular order, but most of us will be in a point where we are taking a job out of necessity. Many of us may have comp and benefits jobs and be very happy with that, or take that for some period of time, perhaps when your kids are in school or something of that sort. Some of us have a dream that it's harder to get to, so we need a bridge to get there and take a bridge job, and others of us know what that dream is and can pursue it directly. Every single one of those paths and every single one of those types of jobs has meaning to your own career, to your life, and to your progression. And you can't separate your life from your career. They're too intertwined. Your work life impacts your home life impacts your work life. Every one of those jobs, even that necessity job, will have purpose for you if you assign it meaning. So when you're going into work that morning or that afternoon to the job that you don't want to go to, you know why you're going. It's serving a purpose for as long as you need to. And that's when a job has purpose, it has meaning. And when a job has meaning, it can help you pursue better work for a lifetime.
You need to trademark that or something because I just feel like maybe it's because now I have been a nurse for almost 14 years that I've gone through different seasons of life where I've gone through seasons where my career is my number one priority. And then I've gone through seasons where, now I'm a mother to 3 kids, and that has sort of taken precedence in my life right now. And your career can kind of fit your life for the season that it's in. And that is definitely true for nursing. We have so many opportunities to work less hours, work different shifts. And I think I've held pretty much every one of those types of jobs. And they also keep changing too. We have a dream job. Maybe we get to that and go, okay, I've done this job. I feel good at it now, but I have a new dream job. I have something new I want to aspire to. So I absolutely love how you put that, because I think if you are in a job that is serving a purpose for you in whatever way, then it is meaningful work.
Yeah, yeah. I love that notion of the dream job. Guess what happens with dreams?
They
We
change.
wake up and then we go to bed and we have another dream. Maybe it's the same dream, maybe it's a different dream. Things change. I love the story that you shared about the changes that have taken place in your life, because you're right. When you're young and single and you can do anything you want, you go anywhere you want, you do all of that. All of a sudden you meet someone. Ooh, priorities change. Now we're making decisions together, or at least
Yeah.
I hope we're making decisions together. I was actually back in the day when I was working at universities, was career coaching a young lady who came into my office and was asking for advice finding, in this case, public relations work in Denver, Colorado, which seemed odd because Denver's not a PR hub. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, but quick question, why Denver? She goes, oh, well, my boyfriend's an engineer and he got a job offer in Denver. And so I want to get a job there. And I said, listen, I've got no business asking this question, and I'm not even going to ask you to answer it. Okay. But I want you to think about it. If you got a job in, let's say, Miami in PR that you really loved before he got a job in engineering, would he look for work in Miami in engineering in order for you to be together? I said, I'm not going to ask you to answer it, but what you've just told me is you are making a decision as a couple to do something, or at least I think you are. And if you are making a decision as a couple, I admire you and I commend you for doing so. But if you're making this career decision yourself because he's making that career decision, you have to ask yourself, would he do the same for you? So you find yourself in a relationship. Now you're making decisions together. You have kids. That changes everything. You get into my world when the kids are grown and they're out of the house, you have different expectations as well. I was actually talking with some nurses when I was in a doctor's office, and I commented that, we were having a conversation that we could have. It was not untoward that, most of the nurses that were working there were older nurses. And they said, yeah, we all get, and her response was real simple. It's like, yeah, we ultimately get really, really tired of walking the hospital floors all day long. And we want a job where we can continue to nurse and do what we do without that much foot traffic because we're getting older.
Yeah.
That's called prioritizing yourself in your
Mhm.
work. And I think that's beautiful. And I think it's so important that we recognize that. I've done a lot of study of different generations in the workplace too. And everybody's talking about Gen Z and are they this or are they that? And they're not lazy. They look at work differently. And I think this is the most magical thing that Gen Z is bringing to the workplace. I'm a boomer Gen X cusper in that
Okay.
regard. So that's my perspective on it. We would go in and see where do we fit into the world of work. Okay. Millennials kind of did the same thing, but found it uncomfortable, saying, where do I fit? And there's things that I'd like to see change. Gen Z has come in and they've had this with the help of the COVID experience, saying, okay, I know that I've got to be my own manager and my own agent because no one else is going to manage my career for me. And I want to see where work fits into the life that I want to have rather than where I fit into the world of work. And I am prioritizing me over the business because we know the business is going to prioritize itself over me. And I think that is the healthiest perspective that they are bringing in that I hope the rest of us start to adopt. Identifying where work fits into the life that we want to have rather than saying, how do we adapt everything in our existence to work?
Absolutely. I really, really like that train of thought. And I think in healthcare, especially, and with nurses, we've run into a lot of burnout and there's a lot of high stress environment that we work in. And when you go home, you can't always turn that off. And work really infiltrates your life. Like you've said, the two are intertwined. So if you are in a job that is like soul sucking for you or really negatively impacting your time out of work, then is it really worth it?
Okay, Caroline, then I have a question for you because I asked my daughter this question too.
Oh.
After a really, really taxing shift, mentally, physically, what do you do so you don't bring that home to your family?
Mm. And let me tell you, I've been guilty of bringing that home to my family. I am someone that I really need time that to like myself to recharge. I would consider myself an ambivert or like
Mhm.
omnivert. I'm an extrovert. I will talk to a rock. But after that conversation with the rock, I need to go and have some
Yeah.
time of peace and quiet and not be so overstimulated. So for me, it's a quiet ride home. It might be a couple, a night reading. It might just be, to my kids, I'm not going to lay with you tonight. I need to just go put myself to bed kind of a thing. But I have gotten into a point now where I have a great job that is perfect for my life, but it's taken me a long time to realize that this is possible.
Yeah. So my daughter's advice on that, she says, whatever you do, decompress with your colleagues, get it all out, talk about whatever it was, maybe go out and have dinner if you can,
Yeah.
and have that conversation over dinner so that you can fuel yourself and get it out of you. Maybe go to the gym, like you said, take a
Yeah.
long ride, do whatever you can do to purge that so that when you get home, the first thing you don't do is unload on your family or your kids or something like that.
So true. I'm lucky. My mom, like I said, is a retired nurse.
Yeah.
So I usually call her every day, talking about everything. And my husband is a physician assistant. So
Uh-huh.
we have that medical knowledge and can have that conversation,
Yeah.
which is, I think sometimes I take it for granted because I'm surrounded by medical people. And then I have friends who are like, my spouse doesn't understand what it's like to be a nurse or how hard it is or the things that I've seen today. So I agree with you. If you have someone that you can go to that can understand and sort of validate how you're feeling and let you unload, you then don't have to carry that, at
Yeah.
least not alone.
Yeah.
It's
Super
a tough
important.
career being in healthcare for sure.
But you don't go into it for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you can make your career work for you in your life. That is like
Absolutely.
something I'm so passionate about. Now, Matt, before we wrap up, do you have any quick tips on networking?
Yeah, it's ongoing. And I call it less networking than I do relationship building
Love that.
because that's additive. What you're not
Mhm.
trying to do is use someone, you're trying to become a colleague to someone so that you can benefit them and they can benefit you over the course of time. Okay?
Yes.
And those are peers that work with you at the same hospital or the same clinic. It's peers that you meet at conferences. These are all good connections. These are people who you call if you're looking at a challenging diagnosis that you can call that may not even be on your team to get another opinion because you respect and trust each other. Constantly work to build your network so that you can be a resource to people like you in a similar situation and you can rise together in your profession. Now, if you're relationship building when you're trying to find a job and you get a contact, the very first thing you should not say is, do you have any jobs?
Can you help me?
Yeah, can you help me? Because they don't know if they want to help you yet. They don't
Mhm.
know you well enough to want to invest any of their reputation in you. So think about that. If someone
Mhm.
comes to you, Caroline, and asks for help, and you just say, oh, yeah, go talk to my friend Matt, and the person that you refer to me turns out to be a real bumpkin, I'm going to forget them and laugh about them, but I'm going to remember, Caroline recommended
Yeah.
the last time she sent me somebody, it really was a waste of my time. So if you're asking for someone's assistance, you're asking them to invest some of their reputation in you. So you've got to
Yes.
let them get to know you a little bit before you ask for anything. By the way, you want to get to know them too, because you might get
Mhm.
to the end of the conversation and say, I do not want to ask this person for help. Boy, have I learned a lot here of things I never want to do or never want to be. Thank you so much. We'll stay connected on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but you're probably not going to hear from me. And keep this, of course, in your head. So you want to ask for assistance when you're in a good position to get a response. When you say, wow, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate what you've told me about whatever it has. Hey, I'd love to learn more. Are there other people who you could refer me to in this who are doing similar work? Because I'd love to know how what you're doing is like you're in a private hospital versus a public hospital or something like that, so I can understand the differences. After a conversation, someone's going to say, sure, of course. Or, hey, if you all are ever hiring, I would love consideration for that. That's when they might say, we actually are hiring. You ask that question at the very beginning, they're going to say, you should check our career board. There's
Yeah.
probably going to be stuff there. They're going to push you up. Give reasons for people to want to help you. And then be there when people ask for your help too. It's a two-way street. And you'll
Oh,
have
you said so many good things. I think too, your reputation is probably the most valuable thing when it comes to your
absolutely.
career, right? If you have a good reputation, you're probably going to get acknowledged for things. You'll probably get opportunities that you don't
Mhm.
even have to seek out. And that goes a long way when quote unquote networking. And networking does sound like handing out business cards. So I like relationship building. And I encourage nurses, even if you are in an elevator with another nurse you've never met, make some small talk. If you're calling to give a report on another unit, be nice to that nurse, and say, hey, how's it going up there? Are you enjoying this full moon? Because they will get to know who you are, even if they don't know what you look like. Because listen, we call each other on the phone and give report and hand off patients all the time. And I've had friends get jobs in different specialties just because that unit knew who they were, when they were giving report, and that they did great nursing care and they were friendly on the phone and were easy to work with from unit to unit.
Yeah, it's getting to know them as people. It's not always about necessarily work. Like, Caroline,
Yes.
next time we talk, it's like, okay, how are the dogs? How are the dogs
Yes.
doing? How's that little Bernie doodle? Is he growing? I would love to see it. It's about getting to know people as people, not
Yeah.
just about the work. Now, one thing I want to add to that as your relationship building, you're progressing in your career, and this is hard is working on your own self-confidence and your
Yeah.
confidence in your worth and what it is that you bring to the table, because there are going to be times when you're doing a great job, you're killing it, and you're doing the very best, and it's not being seen. It's
Yeah.
being seen by the patients that you're serving. It's being maybe seen by your peers, but it's not being seen because maybe they're paying, whatever the reason is, they're paying attention to something else. They've got other priorities, whatever it happens to be. You can't let that shake your confidence. You just have to
I love
realize
that.
sometimes you're going to be the person who sees it and recognizes, man, I really did a good job. Or a peer might see that. But when leadership doesn't always see that, don't let that shake your self confidence.
I love that. Now, on that note,
Mhm.
where can people find you or learn more about the Job Search Academy through Indeed?
Really, really easy. We try to with this a simple vanity URL. It's go.indeed.com/job search academy. No spaces, no caps, no nothing. Go.indeed.com/job search academy. You can go there and you can see all of our on demand content. We do workshops on resume writing, job search, interviewing, those kinds of things. We do topical webinars as well. We do once a month live coaching sessions called Ask a Career Strategist. Anyone can come and anyone can ask questions. And we do monthly Indeed tutorials. We call it an Indeed boot camp, which is about 20 minutes worth of a tutorial on Indeed and 40 minutes of Q&A. That's how people connect with me and the career strategists on my team live. And it's all free. We want to help people get jobs and we want to help people be successful in pursuing their definition of better work.
Oh, I love that. Well, that wraps up our conversation today with Matt Berndt. Thank you, Matt, for nerding out on all things career developing and navigation with me. Most people look at me funny when I light up about resumes and career pivots. So thank you so much for matching my energy and my passion for helping people find meaningful work. I'm
Well,
so grateful for your time and insights today.
Caroline, welcome to my world of geeking out on helping people get jobs. It's great to have a fellow sojourner on that journey with me. This has been a blast. I've really had a great time. Continue doing great work.
Yay. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate you.
Cheers.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Life After Nursing School. I hope you feel more confident and ready to tackle the challenges that come with starting your nursing career. Remember, the first year or two might not be easy, but with the right mindset, you can overcome anything. If you found value in today's episode, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future episode. Also, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps so much in reaching other new nurses like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, you've got this. Take care and see you next time.